Welcome to today's episode for people interested in the extraordinary, yet ancient and often long forgotten stuff. This is your host, Joseph Schinwald from OwnByTheBeach.com. And our guest today is Dane Dormio. I'm so happy we have Dane on the show because we're talking about something I'm personally super interested. Hello, Dane. How are you today?
Hey, Joseph. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's fantastic that we can talk about Qigong today, a topic I'm really super interested. I do not know much about it. So the topic today is the Taoist worldview behind Qigong. Let me talk a little bit about Dane. He's a martial scientist, Chivangelist, MindBody mastery mentor. He has studied physics and applied math. He's from San Diego, and he practiced martial arts since he is at the age of 10. That's a long time ago now. How long is that ago, Dane?
Well, I guess it's been 30 years now.
Wow. But martial arts, you practiced Qigong, you practiced some 16 years, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a long time, both of those. So you are really a master in these disciplines. And he has a fantastic website, taichi.org. It will be in the show notes. And there are all kinds of activities he has there about Qigong. And we will talk about this at the end of the show. So my first question would be, so if Qigong combines exercise, breathwork, and meditation into a single activity, it is meditation, correct? It's just like there is more to it than meditation. It's more like the Qi, which is harnessing the power, the energy, right? Increasing the energy, basically, because the philosophical Taoism is more like about preserving the energy, like with Wu Wei, like actionless or no friction in the actions, right? And avoiding the extremes, be like water. This is more like preserving energy. But if you bring in the Qi element, hygiene and meditation and movement, then you are the Chinese actually had the intention with it to increase the energy. So how would you see how a Qigong is different from other types of meditations? And to just make sure that everybody knows what I mean here, other types of meditations, like in Hinduism, we have mantra meditation and the self-inquiry, the who am I, the I am meditation, and then 4 types of Buddhist meditations, the mindfulness, the sazen in Zen Buddhism, and Vipassana meditation, insight meditation, and metta meditation, the loving kindness meditation. But here we are talking today about Taoism, about China, ancient China, which has developed completely independently. We know that Hinduism and Buddhism has a very common origin, a common mythology. Even in meditation, the Buddha himself at that time learned everything from Hinduism. So this is my interesting question for me today also, how Qigong is different from these other types of meditations.
Well, to understand that, I think it helps to understand the context of what Qigong is and what it means. Because really, I would say yes and no. I mean, would be the answer, but that can be unpacked a bit. Qigong, translated, means energy work. It refers to solo energy cultivation practice, and Qigong is actually one of the 3 primary branches of traditional Chinese medicine. There's acupuncture, herbology, and Qigong. So Qigong originated as a healing art, as a form of solo energy cultivation practice. So Qigong is the the roots of Qigong go back to the same as the roots of traditional Chinese medicine, such as the Yellow Emperor's Internal Classic, or the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine, and the I Ching, the Book of Changes,
Yes.
which goes back very, very far. These are the roots of Qigong practice, and Taoism also is an influence, has influenced the system of TCM and Qigong as well. But Qigong as solo energy cultivation practices, that's a very broad umbrella that potentially can include a lot. What most people mean when they say Qigong, though, is they're referring to a specific type of gentle exercise and moving meditation. And there's basically what most people think of when they think of Tai Chi, i.e. old people moving slowly in the park early in the morning in pajamas. That's essentially what Qigong is when the way it's normally used. It's a type of exercise that combines exercise or movement, breath work, and meditation in a single activity. It's the best kind of multitasking. So Qigong is a form of meditation. It is a form of exercise. It is a form of breath work. It's all of these things. So I guess getting to the question about how, I want to say a little bit more about the relationship between Tai Chi and Qigong, because these terms are often used interchangeably, actually. And this is really where the main connection with Taoism comes in.
Yes.
Qigong is originated as a health practice. It's a solo energy cultivation exercises. And Qigong itself has three primary branches, which are medical Qigong, where the emphasis is on health, wellness, longevity, stress reduction. Martial Qigong, where the emphasis is on strengthening the body and performance enhancement. And spiritual Qigong, where the emphasis is on refining the internal energy of the body and progressing through unfolding states and stages of spiritual awareness. All three of these types of Qigong, though, are based on the three regulations of body regulation, breath regulation, mind regulation. And Tai Chi is the most well-known internal martial art, although there are others. But Tai Chi and other internal martial arts are forms of martial Qigong. It happens, though, that in the modern world, Tai Chi is most often taught and practiced as a solo health cultivation exercise. In other words, it's taught and practiced largely as a form of health Qigong. But Tai Chi is really where we see the main influence of Taoism, because Tai Chi, the martial art, is actually short for Tai Chi Chuan, which just means fighting style based on the philosophy of Taoism, or implicit dualism. I guess
that's interesting. That's very interesting.
Tai Chi is the martial art based on the principle of co-arising dualities. Mm-hmm. Based on the principle of co-arising dualities, which is the philosophy of Taoism. In fact, I say that practicing Tai Chi is applied Taoism. If you're a practicing Taoist, that's how I describe myself. I'm a practicing Taoist. I practice Tai Chi, which is sort of the physical embodiment of the principles of Taoism of co-arising duality.
So there's already a difference. You see, I see it as from the other different types of meditations. But please go ahead.
Yeah, that's actually what I was just about to say. To compare Qigong to other types of meditation, well, to me, actually, all meditation all types of meditation are forms of Qigong. And in fact, exercise, breathwork, and meditation, all of these things are just forms of Qigong. If you exercise, the emphasis is on body regulation. But at least if you're exercising mindfully, there are also breath regulation elements and mind regulation elements as well. With breath work, the emphasis is on breath regulation, but there are also body regulation elements and mind regulation elements. And likewise, with what most people think of as meditation is usually sitting meditation. Sitting meditation, the emphasis is on mind regulation, but there are also body regulation and breath regulation elements to that. So to me, it's all just different forms of Qigong. That's, Qigong is the super category that includes all of these things, including sitting meditation.
But there is this fine distinction. Like when you think about Hindu or Buddhist meditation, you think about the immovable spot, for instance, that what the Buddha, when he got his enlightenment, it's really the stillness. It's like not moving. Yes, you breathe. Yes, you sit in this one posture and you are working then on your mind. You could call it regulations, but in other words, you also let go of thoughts and you recognize thoughts as just appearing in your consciousness. But, Hindu meditators and Buddhist meditators, they don't move around when they meditate. Whereas Taoism, as I see it, in Taoism, the Qigong, there is this movement element, which is beautiful because it is, as you said, applied duality, applied yin and yang, because the yin and yang is stillness and movement, both.
Yeah, that's true. That the other meditation traditions and what most people think of as meditation doesn't involve moving. However, body regulation does not imply moving per se. It implies awareness and regulation of the body. So, for example, in Qigong involves patterns, postures, and free-form movement. Patterns are repetitive movements. Free-form movement is non-repetitive movement, and postures are stationary. So Qigong includes stationary postures, and particularly spiritual Qigong, which is also known as Neigong, the emphasis being more on the internal energy work, emphasizes still postures much more. They may be seated, they may be standing in a variety of poses, they may be lying down. But body regulation doesn't necessarily mean moving, for one thing. It means that attention is given to the body and how the body is held. So in sitting meditation, pretty much all forms of sitting meditation involve having a straight spine, an elongated spine, for example. And typically you're supposed to sit a certain way. These are the body regulation aspects of those forms of meditation. So there are differences between different types of meditation, and likewise, mind regulation doesn't mean you're doing a particular thing with the mind. It means you are paying attention to the mind.
Okay.
It means you are. It means you're regulating mindfulness. I mean, in the broad sense. And there are different types of mind regulation associated with meditation or self-hypnosis. Mind regulation, basically means that you're going into some kind of trance state. And there are lots of different approaches to that in meditation. So the ones that you mentioned, I would say that Qigong is most similar to Vipassana meditation. And I can actually go more into that. I think there's actually a very strong link between Qigong and Vipassana meditation that
would be interesting. Yes, please go ahead.
Go into related to my personal story, but the mind regulation of Qigong, default, typical type of mind regulation of Qigong is it's observer awareness. It's observing, not doing. So in other words, you're not forcing thought to stop, because that's a form of forcing. You're also not becoming absorbed in thought. You're not following your thoughts. You're just observing them. You're aware of them, but you are resting in the observer consciousness, which is characteristic of Vipassana meditation, as opposed to like mantra meditation or something where you focus on a particular aspect. Vipassana, you don't do anything with the mind. You don't focus on any particular object. You just observe the mind itself. And likewise with the body, you're not doing anything with the body. You're just observing the body. You're allowing the body to exist. And likewise with the breath, you're not forcing the breath. You're not doing anything with the breath. You're simply observing the breath in Vipassana meditation. So this is most characteristic of Qigong, is that it's about not forcing, it's allowing. You're allowing and observing. You allow the process of nature to unfold within you, and you rest in the observer consciousness as pure awareness.
Very, very interesting. It seems, I do get some real insights from this. For instance, the main principle of Taoism, of course, is the Tao itself, the mystery upon mysteries, like it is explained in the Tao Te Ching. And then you have the of itself so is another principle. And then there's the Wu Wei, which is, already becoming a popular term now, the frictionless existence. You don't force things. You're like water, right? So exactly, because, when you think about meditation now and you think about what you do now, you cannot really get rid of your thoughts, because you have, 20, 30,000 thoughts a day, as science tells us already. And how can you stop them? Nobody can stop their thoughts. However, we can separate ourselves from them and see them as what they are. They are not our consciousness. They appear in our consciousness and they go away. They come and go in our consciousness. They are not to be identified with us. We are not our thoughts. We are the consciousness in which the thoughts appear. So I like this whole thing about, now it's the first time I understand that from the Taoist worldview and philosophy also, that the non-action principle, the Wu Wei principle, the second most important principle after the spontaneity principle, and that one after the Tao itself, is that applied now to not just calming the mind, not just realizing that we are different from our thoughts, we're separate from our thoughts, not just realizing that we also, that we cannot really control our body, because we can only regulate it, as you said. This is beautiful, because it was never that connection I never could make so well like now, of a Taoist principle and the Hindu and the Buddhist types of meditations. Wonderful. So you said that really nicely with the relationship between Vipassana meditation and the Qigong. I love it.
Yeah, and I can elucidate on that even more by sharing my personal experience, which is that I grew up as a rational materialistic atheist in the Bible Belt, with no concept of spiritual consciousness whatsoever for the first 20 years of my life. But I was really into martial arts, largely owing to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was so into the Ninja Turtles as a kid. My parents decided to sign me up for lessons at the local Taekwondo chain school when I was 10. It was the best Christmas present ever. And I started doing martial arts then and just never really stopped. And for the first 12 years, I practiced a wide variety of external martial arts styles. And for those who aren't familiar with the distinction between internal and external martial arts, external martial arts are what most people think of as martial arts. The emphasis is on physical fitness and calisthenics, jumping around, kicking high, backflips and spin kicks, all that kind of stuff. The focus is on the external results you're creating outside your body. Internal martial arts, the emphasis is on internal awareness and awareness of the sensations and what's happening inside the body, moving slowly, breathing, feeling what's going on inside the body, meditative awareness, practice in a state of meditative awareness. So the through practicing all these different external martial arts for 12 years, I got in really good shape and, did a lot of good things for me. And then another thing that I did was I went to a small private liberal arts school for college, where you have to study a little bit of everything. So the religion elective that I took was a class in Buddhism, and I learned all kinds of cool old stories, which I'd always loved. I'd always loved the Greek myths, and I read the Panchatantra when I was a kid. I actually found a copy of the Tao Te Ching sitting around my house and read it when I was around 13. And at the time, it didn't really make any sense to me. It just sounded like a bunch of gobbledygook, just a bunch of flowery poetic language or something. But put a pin in that because we'll come back to it. So in studying Buddhism in college, I learned all these cool old stories, like the story of Gautama, Prince Siddhartha Gautama, sitting under the ficus tree and having the Satori, the awakening experience, and then arising as the Buddha, the awakened one. And it was just a bunch of cool old stories to me. Didn't really mean all that much. Just it was fun to read about and that sort of thing. And then when I graduated from college and moved to San Diego for graduate school, I was in a new place. I was looking for a new martial arts to learn, and I came across a place called the Kung Fu Academy. And I thought, well, that sounds like something new. I would go check that out. And if it had been called the Tai Chi Academy, I probably wouldn't have gone, because I'd actually tried Tai Chi when I was in college, and I found I didn't have the patience for it. Mm-hmm. But I a few years later, I went to this school, and it was called the Kung Fu Academy, but it taught internal martial arts principles, largely based on the Tai Chi classics. And for whatever reason, it was the right time or right situation or whatever. I got really into it, and I just got really, really deep into the practice, and I was practicing all the time. Just I would go to every single class, and I'd practice every day outside of class. And there was a particular evening when I was in my room practicing, as I often was, just moving slowly, breathing, feeling, paying attention to what was going on inside my body. And then all of a sudden, there was this moment when everything in the universe was completely different. Everything had changed. And yet, at the same time, nothing had changed at all. Everything was completely the same. If anything was different, it was my perceptual process. And the first thought that went through my head after this happened was, oh, that's what that was. That's what they were talking about. I get it. And I recognized this experience that I read about, and I didn't even believe in it, really, think it was a thing, just some cool old stories, until it happened to me. It just fell out of the sky and landed in my lap, kind of like, whoa, where'd that come from? Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, I think was a big part of the reason that it happened to me, because there's this thing that people spend years and decades and lifetimes striving and seeking after, and it just fell out of the sky and hit me in the head. I think a big part of the reason was that I wasn't seeking it. I wasn't striving and looking for it. And several things happened following from that experience. The awakening experience is been widely categorized as having three main components. There's the instantaneous awakening that happens in an instant. There's the peak state, which is always transient. It lasts for a while and then it goes away. And then there's the residual awareness, which can never completely go away. And I enjoyed a pretty good peak state of about 3 months. It was a pretty good run.
Wow.
Where it was kind of like being, it was kind of like that movie Limitless, that is about where you take the little pill and it unlocks the other 90% of your brain. It was kind of like that movie. It was very much like that, except there was no little pill. It was just on all the time for 3 whole months. I had full access to everything I was sensing and perceiving. The doors of perception were wide open. I had access to everything I'd ever perceived and remembered, and all these insights that I didn't even know were in my head just started assembling and pouring out of me. I'd never studied neural nets formally, but I started producing all these mathematical conjectures and theorems related to neural nets and the nature of consciousness and reality, stuff that I didn't even know that I knew was coming out of me. And another thing that happened was I became drastically better at martial arts. And really what it was like was the previous 12 years, I was in really good shape. I was fit. I was agile. I could do all kinds of cool tricks and stunts, but I really was not in control of my body. More specifically, if I really could not fight my way out of a wet paper bag, and deep down on some level I knew it. But what happened following this experience was I began to inhabit my body completely and have complete control over it. And it was like I gained the benefits of the previous 12 years of martial arts training I had been doing in about 6 months. It was like I'd been collecting all the tools, but I had no idea to use them. And then all of a sudden I could use them. So that was one thing that happened. And another thing that happened, going back to that pin about the Tao Te Ching, was for some reason I picked up another copy of the same version of the Tao Te Ching at this time, and I read it, and it all made complete, perfect, total sense. I got it down to just the absolute finest detail. It felt like I was sitting down in a room having a face-to-face conversation with whatever individual or entity or open source collaborative effort produced that work. Or really, it wasn't even like a conversation. It felt more like a Vulcan mind meld, like just a direct mind-to-mind transmission of understanding. And this was when I realized that I was a Taoist. It was like, oh, that's what that's called. It wasn't like I chose to adopt a particular belief system or something. It was just a matter of recognition. Like, if the shoe fits, wear it. Yeah, this is how I perceive reality to be. That's what it's called. Okay, cool. I guess now I know what I am. This is what happened to me, just completely unwittingly. But getting to the connection between Qigong and Vipassana, it was actually just the year before last that I attended a Vipassana training course. And for those who might not be familiar, Vipassana is, so the story goes, the original meditation technique practiced and taught by the Buddha. According to them, it was the original tradition was preserved in Burma, and the Vajrayana and all the other versions of Buddhism that came later were deviations. The story goes that this is the original practice done and taught by the Buddha, and there's quite a bit of nuance to learning this, and I suggest anybody who wants to learn this meditation technique go to a course. It's really great, but it boils down to this: sit still and feel your body. That's the technique. And people think of meditation as something that's going on in the mind. In Vipassana, you ignore the mind. I mean, you're aware of it, you observe it, but you don't focus on it. You don't go into it. You feel the body. And supposedly what the Buddha taught was the the way to understand reality is to deeply feel your body. And based on the experience that I had, I can attest that, yeah, there really is something to that. I mean, individual results may vary, but the connection between feeling your body and spiritual awakening, yeah, there's definitely something there. And this was just further confirmation of the realization that I had at the time that Taoism and Buddhism are really the same philosophy in different clothing. I could just as easily identify as a Buddhist as a Taoist. I feel more affinity with Taoism, and but it's like it's really the same thing, just expressed through a different cultural lens. It's the same fundamental philosophical truth about the nature of reality. So I really do think there is something to the idea that the physical sensations of the body are the gateway to understanding universal truth.
You are so fascinating. I could listen to you for hours. Also, we have a lot in common. Beautiful. I think, our love for wisdom and our love for the ancient traditions, we have that very much in common. And also, that we can just move around. It doesn't matter. I don't identify with anything. I don't identify with anything. I would say only, like there's this joke, on the weekends I'm a Taoist, on Monday I'm a Muslim, on Tuesday I'm a Christian, and then, it goes on. Thursday, Buddhist, whatever, because the days are different. And on the weekend you want to relax, so on the weekend you're a Taoist, right? So what I would like to think is this, I know a lot about stories. They're everywhere. Ram Dass, Ellen Watts, and many others who had this kind of experience, which you had for 3 months. I learned that Eckhart Tolle. Yeah, Eckhart Tolle said he had also several months this kind of extraordinary experience. And but with Ram Dass and others, you find this kind of experience because it was induced, by LSD. And it's not a bad thing for our culture at that time, I mean, a lot of intellectual people, they found incredible experience through LSD. I'm not one of them. I also had my own, natural spiritual experiences. I was a long time in India then. I moved there for a while, for 2 years, because I had these experiences, and I also studied the Tao Te Ching and the Upanishads and all this. So for me, it was also more natural. But the point is that you are seeing this just like I see it. When you look at the body, or when you look at yourself, a lot of philosophers, I shouldn't say a lot I know, let's say, they talk about reality as if it would be something outside of themselves. They talk about the magic of life as if it's something outside of ourselves. But, I always refer to it to myself. And so is everybody else. It's inside of us and it's outside of us for sure. However, when I think about the magic of life, I think about myself first. When I think about the reality of life, I think about myself first. And, we are in this body, and this body is obviously also our limitation. But at the same time, it's containing in some limitless consciousness. And that, again, is duality according to Taoism. And so you can clearly see that Taoism has a unique worldview there. The duality in Hinduism becomes all shunyata, emptiness. In Buddhism, it becomes absolute relativism. Similar concepts, similar notions, yet I've never really understood it so well that everything, without exception, has a dualistic aspect to it. Now, you don't want to go into the extremes. Even the Buddha said it clearly in his middle path, in the middle way. Nagarjuna, who came after him, it's the middle way. You don't want to get lost in the middling world where everything is polarized. You want to stay in the middle. However, it is an experience we have of reality where we are in there, which is a middling world. You have everything inside, yet you have it also outside. But in order to really call it reality, I think everybody has to call it reality, because I am. You are the reality. It's not outside for you in that sense that you experience it. So the body going into yourself, the body is nothing else but this world, I mean, without this body, you cannot experience the world. But I'm going on here, and I would like to ask you this other question now. We don't have too much time anymore, and we want to get to your website, your activities, because you are actually on Facebook, in a Facebook group, very active with people teaching what you're just mentioning here, the Qigong and this kind of meditations. The worldview of Taoism. The worldview, for me, the worldview of Taoism is unique in a sense that it really embraces the sunny side and the shadow side of the mountain, which is nothing else than the yin and the yang. So it's literally translated sunny side and shadow side of the mountain. And ultimately, this is not divided. Ultimately, it's actually always has been one in the Tao.
Every human being on the planet needs some kind of personal, daily, mind-body, energetic hygiene practice just for baseline maintenance of physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health. This is just like sunlight and vitamins and minerals and sleep. This is something that we all need. It's not a luxury that is nice if you can get it. It's a basic need. And if you're not meeting this need for yourself, then your health will suffer in some way. So my mission is to install something like this as part of the basic human operating system, just like the way that people used to not brush their teeth. It used to just not be a thing that people did. And then at a certain point, somebody started doing it, it caught on, and now pretty much everybody does it. I'd like to see some kind of personal daily mind-body energetic hygiene practice installed as part of the basic human operating system, just like taking a bath every day or every couple of days, whatever. I don't judge, but that's the type of practice I teach, and ideally some kind of complete mind-body practice. And what I mean by a complete mind-body practice is a practice that incorporates exercise, breathwork, and meditation into a single activity, i.e. the three regulations: mind regulation, body regulation, breath regulation. Is this sounding familiar?
Yes.
Qigong is an ideal complete mind-body practice. And so I teach a process that I call your daily dose of Qigong. Mm-hmm. That is, it's like a shower. It could be squeezed down to 5 minutes or stretched out to 45, but typically it's a 20 to 30 minute process that anyone can undergo at any time to refresh, recharge, revitalize, and rejuvenate their entire mind-body energy system. And I know there are a lot of people out there who are shooting on themselves about these things, like, oh, I should be exercising more, or they know about the benefits of meditation, like, oh, I should be doing that, I haven't got around to it. A lot of times people are just not really sure where to start because it's such a big world. But what I recommend is some kind of complete mind-body practice, like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Qigong as your baseline. And then if you, just something that you do, the basic recommendation is 5 to 15 minutes, or as long as you feel like, 1 to 3 times a day, or as often as needed, 5 to 7 days a week for baseline maintenance of physical, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being. And then on top of that, if you want to, if you also want to have a physical fitness or calisthenics practice, if you want to jog, if you want to swim, if you want to lift weights, that's great. If you want to have a dedicated sitting meditation practice, like if you want to do Vipassana meditation, or you want to do guided meditations or whatever, in addition, that's great. It's so much the better. If you want to have a dedicated breathwork practice, something like the Wim Hof method, that's also great. But the complete mind-body practice, your daily dose of Qigong, should be the standard baseline for all human beings on the planet, I think, regardless of age, physical condition, anything else, because Qigong is a practice that can be adapted to any level of intensity. It's particularly, in fact, a lot of people who hurt themselves doing yoga because they push too hard or whatever, they end up finding Qigong for something that will have similar benefits but be more gentle. It's great for rehabilitation of injuries, overcoming injury or illness, as well as if you're a high-performing athlete or entrepreneur or whatever, the practice is broadly adaptable. So what I want to see is more people doing this, so we reach the critical mass tipping point in consciousness. And that is why I designed the daily dose process, and I have a group on Facebook. It's called the 7-Day Qigong Non-Challenge, because it's designed to be so easy that there can be no excuse not to do it. Just watch and follow along with one easy video per day for 7 days. And I'm betting that's all it will take to get you addicted. And for those who want to go deeper, I also have an online learning community that teaches this stuff. So if you are somebody who is wanting to have some kind of physical fitness practice, some kind of meditation practice, some kind of stress reduction and health practice, this is designed to be easy for anybody to get started with. No previous experience is required, and I welcome you to join me if you would like to. If you'd like support for your personal mind-body mastery journey.
Yeah, I'm already a member of your group, but I haven't been active yet. What is your URL of the Facebook group?
Well, it's the 7-Day Qigong Non-Challenge on Facebook, and that's easy to look up. It's also
I know where it is. I will
profile.
I know your profile. Anyway, I know where it is, and I also will put it in the show note. Then you have also a website, and you are also helping corporations, and you do personal consulting and coaching, and how do you call this? Giving classes, for people who want to know more about it. What is the website address? It will be also in the show notes, but I want you to spell it, because with my Austrian accent, I might not get it right.
Yeah, it's Chai Ti Tai Chi. As I said, the terms Tai Chi and Qigong are often used interchangeably, and it's kind of it's just kind of a thing that more people are familiar with Tai Chi. People have heard of it, know what it is. A lot more people have not heard of Qigong or not familiar with it, but people know about Tai Chi as a stress reduction and health practice, as a form of solo energy cultivation practice. And so when people are looking for Tai Chi, they're usually not looking for a martial art. They're looking for Qigong, really, but they just don't know what that is. So I use the term Tai Chi to get people's attention, because, of course, Tai Chi is a form of Qigong, but what we focus on is not the partner drills, the martial arts self-defense aspects, but the solo practice, the health and energy cultivation practice. And that I put out, all of these resources can be found on my website, the free Facebook group. We've got free videos on YouTube and articles, and also an online learning community, which is a membership site where we have a complete pre-recorded curriculum designed to take you from beginner to self-sufficient in your practice, as well as live weekly classes. So the thing that I want to see most is more people doing this. And if I can support you in any way in establishing your own personal daily mind-body energetic hygiene practice, I'll be happy to do that.
Wonderful. And that's nice that people know where to go if they want to know more about this. And you basically say the Qigong is the overall, the umbrella notion of all of it. Yes?
Right.
The Qigong. And I understand Qi a lot because Qi, I know it from my studies in world religions. Qi is energy. And what I also remember is that in Taoism, it is very clear that you have three kinds of views of energy. The philosophical one, like we talked about, the Wu Wei principle, the way you live your life, frictionless, you don't interfere, is the principle of preserving energy. So it is almost like a business. I learned this from Houston Smith, who wrote a book on world religions, the best you can imagine. I mean, maybe you know it, The World's Religions, it's called, The World's Religions by Houston Smith. And he explained it that way, the Taoism, that there is this philosophical Taoism, and then what you said, what you explained very well, the hygiene, the meditative, the moving.
Applied Taoism.
Applied, excellent. Applied Taoism. And then the last one he explained as the shamanic Taoism. It's like when the shamans try to access cosmic energy. But the way he explained it, Houston Smith, was that you have this philosophical one, which is like preserving energy. It's almost like a business who looks always at the cost, and they just want to be efficient, and they just don't want to spend too much money on things. They want to be frugal, and they want to be conserving that the costs are not going, way out in the sky. And then there is the applied Taoism, and that wants to increase the energy we have. And then the cosmic energy, of course, that's where we access cosmic energy, like shamans with rituals, with, ceremonials, and all these things. Ultimately, I believe it is important, like you said, in former days, we didn't brush our teeth many centuries, and now everybody does. So there are things we don't know if we don't do it, if we don't see others doing it, what we are actually missing out. So we live our life in a low energy realm, whereas all reality is energy, while we could actually increase our experience of life, our joy, happiness, and bliss to a higher level by just following some principles, like you mentioned, Qigong, Tai Chi principles. Wonderful. I think we came to a wonderful conclusion. It was super interesting to me. I'm always fascinated how fascinating people can be, and you see each other sometimes reflected also. But then again, you see completely new aspects which you never heard before, and you see, wow, so wonderful that I just learned this. I learned really a lot listening to you. It was a great podcast episode. I really am very grateful for this. Thank you, Dane, for having been on the show. Thank you, Dane.
You're welcome, and thank you, Joseph. I'm glad to have the opportunity to talk about this stuff.
Yes, we connected some time ago, and then I connected with you on Facebook, and I suddenly said, you know what, this is a great opportunity to get to know more about Taoism, and particularly Qigong. And I did today. Fantastic. Now we have it recorded. I should say thank you also for my dear listeners for joining us today. And as we explained before, the recap of the show, as I explained, with bullet points, is in the show notes with all the links mentioned during the interview, website, Facebook group, where you can connect with Dane. It's all on ombythebeach.com and also in my Facebook group. If you like this podcast, please subscribe to have you here again for our next episode. This is your host, Joseph Schinwald. Thank you and goodbye until we meet again.